Hi everyone and welcome back. I'm so excited for today's video and I really wanted to make it the absolute best for you to watch. It's been a few years since I last bought a new watercolor brand, with the most recent being the Isaro, which you know are one of my favorites. And today we are discovering MaimeriBlu watercolors, an Italian-based brand. According to their website, these watercolors are transparent and clean, made with a mix of pure pigments and gum arabic. The brand offers over 90 single pigment colors with excellent light fastness. They also provide detailed information on their website for each color to help you choose the right pigment, such as transparency, light fastness, pigments, and safety data. I've been looking at them for more than a year now and finally took the leap by buying 9 of the colors. As you can see, I had a bit of trouble opening the pans. Some paints were creamier than others. I'm not surprised, as I've seen other artists mention this issue too. After wetting the pans with a brush and water, the leftover paper came off easily. Also, I hope you're enjoying watching me putting the pans in my palette the wrong way. Please be kind, it's been a long time since I've worked with pans. I am someone that loves having multiple colors on my palette. I find that each one reacts differently on paper, which makes me curious every time. Discovering new pigments is always interesting, as you can find, for example, multiple reds or blues to choose from within a brand, even though sometimes it can get confusing. However, each one of them has specific pigments in it, making them unique and producing different color combinations when mixed with other ones. I wanted to limit myself to a smaller number of colors to get challenged and focus on the mixing part. I only chose 9 colors, and if you're interested, you can find them in the description of the video. I didn't buy any greens, as you can see. At first, I was going to buy one, but I decided to restrain myself and only create greens through mixing, as I feel I need to learn more about that hue. As I swatched them on my sketchbook, I noticed right away that each of these pans was very pigmented and had a beautiful transparency. My only exception would be for this Pyrrole red, as the color tends to fade a little when it dries. I first did a small painting before diving into the final one to be sure I had the right values and colors. As I was pretty satisfied with the overall concept, I finally started painting bigger. And let me tell you, it was quite a roller coaster. My first attempt was made on Fabriano Artistico cold pressed paper, and while applying the first wash on the sky, I made a mistake. When working around the sun, I used too much water, creating a bloom, as you can see. So I decided to make a second attempt on my Canson Heritage cold pressed paper, but as you can see, it didn't go well since the sizing is damaged. For this third and final attempt, I decided to use Lanaquarelle paper, a French brand. It's a 100% cotton, cold-pressed 300 GSM paper. I haven't used it much. I can only recall painting with it once, and I didn't really enjoy the experience. Since then, it's just been sitting on my shelf while I stuck with brands I'm more comfortable with. What struck me right away is how differently it reacts to water. It felt like the paper absorbed it so quickly that it sometimes made the task difficult and I had to speed up before it started to dry. Now thinking about it, using a brand I'm not familiar with along with new watercolors may not have been the best idea. It sure was a challenge to make this painting, but I learned a lot from it. To me, that's a win. So just a friendly reminder, challenge yourself in your practice. Doing the washes for the sky was very enjoyable and the paints were easy to use. I always like to start very light when I'm painting skies like this and build up the layers slowly. Here I used only 2 layers and I was happy to see that the colors didn't lift. If you've seen some of my previous videos, you might have noticed I do the clouds differently this time. Usually I go for smooth, blended clouds, but I wanted them to look sharp this time to create a stronger contrast with the background sky. As I swatched the paints, I fell in love with the blues, especially the ultramarine light. I used a diluted mix of this color and a bit of phthalo blue to paint the distant mountains, and it created such a beautiful shade. It contrasts nicely next to the orange and red shades from the sky. Usually when painting, I get impatient to finish as I want to see if the result matches what I had imagined from the start. But with this piece, I felt the need to slow down and to be mindful of every detail I added to the paper. It turned into a meditative process, almost healing at the same time. At this point, I felt a real challenge setting in and it became a bit trickier. The paper still absorbed a lot of the water on my brush and everything dried really quickly, which caused a few blooms. I took a few days break from my painting to rest my eyes. Sometimes when I focus too much on a painting or a drawing, I can't really spot unwanted or missing details. After stepping away, I was able to see more clearly where I wanted to take this painting. I used the masking fluid in some areas of the painting to keep them lighter, so I could focus more on the painting without worrying about preserving highlights. At first, I felt the washes dried too light, so I decided to add more layers to create a sharper contrast between them and the distant mountains. One major issue I came across is how much the colors spread in the water, which made achieving smooth gradients a bit difficult. I can't tell if it comes from the paper or the paints, since I'm not too familiar with these supplies yet. But I do know that phthalo blue is a dispersive pigment. I think I will need to practice more under different conditions to make my own conclusion about it. At this point, I wasn't quite sure where this was leading me, but I kept an open mind and began to paint the final details. I was nearly finished with only a few details left to complete this painting. And to be honest, it was a bit emotional for me because I went through so many different feelings during the process. I don't know if I'm the only one who feels this way, but I always need a moment to pause before starting a new piece and really tapping into that creative energy. And actually, I had a positive experience with Lanaquarelle paper this time, even though I had to constantly adjust my painting techniques. It is quite sturdy and holds up well, even after multiple layers, rubbing off masking fluid and adding details on top. My final thoughts on the MaimerBlu watercolors are very positive. I really enjoyed painting with them. They're very pigmented, the pans are easy to re-wet, and their transparency has convinced me to buy more of them in the future. I definitely would recommend starting with a limited number of pans and experimenting with them instead of investing in larger quantities at once. You could even grab 3 primary-like colors and see what you can create from them. Actually, that's a fun challenge I'd love to tackle on someday if you'd be interested in watching, so please let me know in the comments. Until then, I hope you'll have a nice day. Bye!